Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation following. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our elected officials, grant them the wisdom to know and the courage to do what is right for all citizens. Amen.
Amen. Roll call, please.
Allen. Here. Green.
Here.
LaFour.
Here.
Mastrovich.
Here.
Ricks.
Here.
Warren.
Here.
Yark.
Here.
Good to see everybody here tonight. We move on to approval of minutes for the City Council regular meeting of June 6th. Is there a motion?
Motion. Support.
What's been made and supported? Is there any discussion on those minutes? Be not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. We have audience comments on any non-agenda items. Would anybody like to speak to council? Now would be the time. We will move on. Adoption of agenda, Mr. City Manager, any changes?
No changes.
City Council, any changes? Being not, motion to accept the agenda as presented be in order.
Motion.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. We need a motion for the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. There's no discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. We have a public hearing this evening on the city's budget. We need a motion to go into the public hearing.
I move to open the public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2016-2017 budget at 7:06.
Support.
What's been made and supported, is there any discussion? Being not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. The public hearing is open. Mr. City Manager?
Council is scheduled to hold a public hearing to receive public comment on the proposed 2016-17 budget. The total city budget is $10.8 million, including a $3.7 million general fund. The city council held 3 budget workshops in May to go over the budget and make changes. The budget calls for a levy of 16.6526 mils for general operating purposes. And we also include a set aside of up to an amount equal to 2 mils into our street improvement fund. The city does not currently levy any debt millage, and the city will be levying a 1% administration fee for tax collection and a flat fee of $189.20 annually for the collection of garbage, recycling, and yard waste.
Thank you, sir. Is there any comments or questions from the public? We don't have any? Nothing? City Council, any comments at this point? If not, a motion to close the public hearing would be in order.
Move to close the public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2016-2017 budget at 7:07.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? Being not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. The public hearing is now closed. We'll move on to items for consideration, which we have 7 this evening. The first one being consideration of adopting Resolution 2016-4, which is the adoption of our 2016-17 city budget. Mr. City Manager?
During the public hearing, I went over kind of the highlights of the budget. Would just like to thank the city council and all the department directors for the work they did, both putting this budget together and during the 3 budget workshops. And administration's recommendation is that council favorably consider Resolution 2016-4, which serves as the General Appropriations Act for the city and adopts the 2016-17 budget.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 2016-4, which adopts the City of Richmond fiscal year 2016-17 budget and appropriates the necessary sums for each fund of the city, adopts the 2016 to 2021 capital outlay program, directs the levy of taxes and fees for municipal purposes, and directs the preparation of the tax roll and collection of taxes.
Support.
It's been made and supported. Discussion. which we had 3 public meetings, workshops that council had to go over the budget, pretty much line by line, again, as we have in the past. Looks like we've done administration, of course, has done a lot of work to get us all the information that we request every year, and thank them for that. Any other comments?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
I appreciate that, as you said, Mayor Ricks, the council's worked together with staff very well to bring forth this budget. I appreciate, I forget, we're 5th or 6th year now that we've held the millage rate the same. I've lost track of how many we've, held that cap there and not asked to raise taxes at any point. I appreciate we haven't taken on any debt to get there. I'm always concerned, we have a $47,000 shortfall between expenditures and revenues, except I think this staff's credit to the city manager is that we've always figured our expenditures for the worst case scenario and our revenues at the worst case scenario, what's the minimum that we think we're going to get, which is why we see a $47,000 shortfall. I think in the past, we've always been able to squeeze that through the year. So I'm going to vote in support because I'm confident that through that year, we are going to, we've stayed on track for doing that, to be able to squeeze any shortfall that we end up starting the year with. So.
Very good. Other comments?
I just want to thank the treasurer and our city manager and all the support staff for just a phenomenal job. That just the preparedness, the packets, it was the smoothest budget season that I've experienced yet on council, and I really appreciate it. And it was so clear and concise, and I agree with everything that we're doing, and we're doing some great things and really moving forward on a lot of stuff. And I appreciate everybody here on council for the time that they have taken to putting into this and pouring their times and effort. It is just so much appreciated, and the fruit is starting to be seen by others. So.
I agree with you. Anybody else? Any audience comments on this? Back to the table. Again, thank you, John, to you and your staff for
You're welcome. Thank you.
making it a very, very smooth year for us also. We're not going to be setting the world on fire. We have about the same amount of money that we've had in the past with all the cuts that have been handed to us by the government above us. We're still doing really well. And our millage rate is still one of the lowest in our homestead millage rate is one of the lowest in Macomb County. I think we're number 5 or 6 right now, only by tenths of a mill in some cases. So I think we're still doing very, very well with what we can collect here and making it affordable to still live here. Mm-hmm. That's the big key. Anything else? Being not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? Motion does pass. And for anybody in TV land there, if you would like to see more about the budget, all you need to do is contact the city manager and get an appointment to come in, and you can scrutinize it just like we do. We're tax-paying citizens just like everybody else at home.
And Mr. Mayor, that the budget is on file in the clerk's office, and then tomorrow I'll upload the executive summary and budget sheets up to the website.
Okay, very good. Very good. Moving on to item number 2, consideration of adoption of the fiscal year 2016-17 city fee schedule. Mr. City Manager.
Council is scheduled to consider adopting the fiscal year 2016-17 city fee schedule. All of the different changes were provided to you in the packets of the departmental budgets during the workshops. This year, there's very minor changes to the fee schedule. There are a few changes in the police department, our sanitary, sewer, and water departments.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the City of Richmond fiscal year 2016-2017 fee schedule as presented by the city manager.
Support.
Motion's been made and supported. Any discussion?
Just one thing. We're raising the sewer rate 2%, and the readiness charge for water is going up, but and nothing's being done with the water rate in general. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting, and we've tried to stay on where we don't increase the rate. We try to keep adjusting to inflation and not have that surprise. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting, last year, I think the story in the paper was, major jump in water rates in Richmond.
Yep.
And in reality, when you look at what Detroit what's coming for people who are on the Great Lakes Water Authority, when they finally account for their failing infrastructure and what's gonna cost, and other communities who kick the can down the street, 2% is a great number to keep it to. And that we, each year we adjust it to make sure that we're on track. If our numbers look better, then we can do less, but we always kind of try to keep in touch with that, not kick the can down the street and have an 8% or 10% or 20%. So I just wanted to comment about that because it was interesting. The paper kind of played out as like this huge jump. In reality, it was only 2% when you look at other communities that had much larger rate increases, because we have accounted for the issues in our infrastructure. And as I talk to people and hear the concerns in the Great Lakes system, I know was Detroit, what they're scared of as far as increases, because they haven't accounted for the failing infrastructure.
And to make that clear, we have been maintaining the structure all the way along.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that real clear to the people.
If I misspoke, I mean, yeah.
No, you just, on my terms, I guess.
Okay.
At my level, it's like, we are maintaining what we have here, and every chance we get, we've been able to replace water main without having special assessments.
Correct.
So many communities have special assessments for this, as we all know, and we're against the special assessments.
And I'm glad Councilor Yarrick brought that up, because as I've watched the newspaper print the headlines as other communities have adopted their budget, they're utilizing the same headlines they utilized last year. And city adopts budget rate hike. And really, when you look at the 2% increase, the average water user would see their quarterly bill go up about $4 with the changes we're making. So, but I think sometimes the newspaper likes to they struggle to do a comprehensive coverage of budgets, and so it's the easy headline to write, when in reality, as you've mentioned, we're maintaining our systems and not having huge costs later on due to broken infrastructure or sinkholes or problems like that. And the cost to the average water user this year will probably be $4 a quarter.
Yeah. No, it's very good. It's good we stay on top of that. Okay, any other comments? Any audience comments? Back to the table? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. Item number 3 is consideration of approving the Tifa tax base sharing agreement. Mr. City Manager.
Council is scheduled to consider entering into a tax-based sharing agreement with the Tax Increment Finance Authority for the City of Richmond. Under an agreement entered into by both Tifa and the city, a portion of the captured assessed value can be shared by the Tifa with the city. In the past several years, we've done a 34% tax-based sharing. This year, we were able to lower that to 24%, and so the overall impact will be $109,000 left in the city's general fund versus going to Tifa.
Thank you. John, can we have some clarification under your background brief? If you come down into the second paragraph, third sentence down, it says the attached agreement proposes sharing 34% of the Tifa capture in the 15-16 fiscal year.
Sorry, that should be
24% for the 16-17.
correct, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Just wanted to make sure. Okay. Given that, is there a motion before discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the captured assessed value sharing agreement between the City of Richmond, Tifa, and the City of Richmond for its fiscal year 2016-17, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. Is there any discussion? Good to see that we can lower that so more money can go back into the Tifa district for a lot of the things we have planned for the Tifa district right now, or are on order.
Yes.
Right?
Correct, yes.
Very good.
Next month should see the furniture, so.
Yeah. Is there any other comments, questions? Any audience participation on this item? Back to the table? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? Motion does pass. Item number 4 is consideration of facility improvement request from the Richmond Good Old Days Festival. Mr. City Manager?
The City Council is scheduled to consider a request from the Richmond Area Good Old Days Festival to make improvements to the festival grounds, which are north of Festival Drive in the park. There's 4 areas that the festival would like to have millings placed. One is for the area of the tent, and then also an area between the tent and the midway, and then just south of the midway. And then if they get enough millings, also the entrance to the Derby pit. Several years ago, the city and the festival worked together to have millings placed kind of in the driveway behind the barn and also on a parking area along Festival Drive. They've held up very well. And so the last couple years with the festival, with rain events, it's become problematic on the grounds, on maintaining them and maintaining access for people that come and enjoy the festival, as well as for the vendors that are there. So it's been worked in the past, and the festival is requesting permission at no expense to the city to place millings on these areas.
Thank you, Jed. Is there a motion before discussion?
I make a motion to approve the Richmond Good Old Days Festival Facility Improvement Request to install millings on a portion of the Good Old Days Field in Beebe Street Park.
Support.
Motion's been made and supported. Is there any discussion?
I forgot to mention, this did go to the Recreation Board, who also recommended council approval.
As stated by city manager, we've had some bad years here with rain, and we found ourselves underwater no matter what we did. Hours upon hours of volunteer work by many, many people did not solve the problem. So it's got to get fixed. I think we saw a decline last year in some attendance because of it. It used to be funny during the corn cob days and whatnot. It seemed like it was part of the Good Old Days Festival for many, many years. And then we had a long run there, thank God, without troubling rain. But the last few years, we've had some pretty bad rains, and we need to solve the problem. We also have installed a sewer into the Good Old Days barn, so we could finally have a flushing toilet in there, and that has settled the ground also. That was part of the problem. Also, there was work done in the back that was creating a ponding for all the drains that we had installed over the years. So by doing this, and what got this going, besides the fact that the festival wanted to get this done, has wanted to do this for years and really couldn't afford it, was the Pound Road project. They supposedly were going to take the millings from Pound Road is the way they were going to do that, and we were going to bring those millings. It was actually in the contract that we'd get so many yards of millings back over to the grounds. And as it turns out, they are not doing that. So now Good Old Days will be paying for that, but still working with Telto Contracting to make that happen. Also, we've entered into an agreement with the Richmond DPW to have actual drain structures put on the property that we will be paying for also. So we hope to have, no matter what the rain's like, we hopefully will have a fairly dry grounds now. It also goes to what type of carnival we can attract. If they're putting their equipment on our grounds and they're full of mud, when they get out of there, it costs them a lot of money to clean them up before they go to the next venue. So it's something that we had to do no matter what. So it's working out. If council gives its blessing, we should have a high and dry Good Old Days event this year for the first time. If there's any questions, I can answer them. It's the project that the Good Old Days Festival has let me do as co-chairman. Any other comments? Any audience participation? Back to the table. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? Motion does pass. Good Old Days thanks the City Council. Item number 5 is consideration of liability insurance proposals. Mr. City Manager?
The City Council is scheduled to consider approving a proposal for the city's liability insurance. In the late 1990s, we switched from the MML, their pool, over to our current provider. In the recent years, we had a City Council budget committee that looked at different ways during the downturn to try and save money. One of the suggestions that came out of that committee was to start taking a look at our professional services contract. contracts. The first one that we did was the liability insurance. I've gotten proposals from our current provider, along with a company, Nickel and Saff, who is kind of the other major player when it comes to municipal liability insurance. With the process going through and bidding it out, we did kind of come to the conclusion that we've probably been a little bit underinsured. We have a $1 million liability policy with a $1 million umbrella on top of that. And most communities our size, with police departments and other things that we're involved in, pretty much have a $1 million with a $3 million umbrella. Now, going through the process, that allows our agent to go back to the parent company, which is Houston Casualty Company, and kind of indicate that they have a very good client who's considering shopping around, and they're able to then make deals in order to keep us. So the two proposals that came in were one from our HCC and John Gandolfi was $80,001, and through Trident, through Nickel and Saff, was $94,235. And so by administration's recommendation, going with John Gandolfi and HCC, the city would realize a $34,712 savings.
Very good, thank you. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the liability insurance proposal from John Gaddafi, HCC, in the amount of $80,000 and one.
Support.
Motion been made and supported, discussion. Isn't it interesting, I've talked to the city manager, it's obvious that we have better coverage for $34,000 less. It also just reduced our going to the general fund by
Yes.
$34,000 also, so it leaves us at about $14,000, I think, right now.
All of the different funds, water, sewer, pay a portion of that liability, so
So it doesn't have the
not
full
it's
effect.
not complete,
The
correct.
full effect
Sorry
on the
about that.
general fund. I'm sorry, you're right, yeah. But anyhow, it's a great savings.
But certainly, the substantial portion of that will be general fund.
Yeah. Okay. Comments?
Mr. Mayor, yes, I'd like to thank the administration for following up on this. This was a really pleasant surprise. I know that yourself and Councilor Yark and myself were on the committee, and it was during our brainstorming that we talked about looking back at our current expenses and looking at different ways to reevaluate everything. So, actually, I think it was Councilor Yark that was the one that was really pushing this. So, thanks to the committee that was put in place and City Council for letting us work on this, and the administration for making it come true.
Very good. Any other comments?
Yes. And I appreciate Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Roberts' comments about it. Is that I'm glad that the kind of validates the budget, the idea of the budget committee coming together and working in the support of the council. And I know that over recent times, we had a lot of our focus was getting into this facility. So I'm glad that now that we have some time, we can take up some of these things that we had discussed, and I hope that we're going to continue with those recommendations. That this is great to see this, and again, at the same time, reduce that shortfall, as you said.
Anybody else? Any audience comments? Back to the table? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. We move on to item number 6, consideration of bid award, house demolition. Should be houses. Mr. City Manager.
Council is scheduled to consider awarding the bid for the house demolition project. The city currently recently purchased 3 homes along Park Street, and then this winter, administration pursued and was awarded a Michigan Land Bank grant for the demolition costs. The project was advertised on Mitten, and the notice was also placed in the Voice, and we received 8 bids. The lowest was International Construction. Jim Getzinger, our Public Service Director, did follow up on a reference check from those. They're in the demolition business, mainly over in Shelby Township, and their low bid was $27,900. The grant award was for $40,000. I hate to leave money on the table. We're currently working with the state to see if some of the previous costs, such as DPW disconnecting the water and sewer or the asbestos testing, is able to be rolled into those costs. We're waiting for answers on all those. That's kind of some of the risk you take when you write a grant and you don't know the total cost. We were a little hesitant to put everything in there and then not get the grant. So we'll still pursue trying to get some of those costs taken care of as well.
Is there a motion before discussion?
Move to award the 2016 building demolition project to International Construction in the amount of $27,900 with all expenses anticipated to be reimbursed by the Michigan Land Bank Authority.
Support.
Motion been made and support. Discussion. Timeline? Is there one
We
in the
don't
contract?
have one yet. As soon as we get the contract awarded, we'll sit down with the pre-con from them. I know they were anticipating starting right away, and I don't think, and looking at like how long it took them on those two houses on Forest, I don't think it'll be a very long project. I think once they start, maybe a week or so.
Okay.
Probably less than 2 weeks to demo them. But we'll have a better idea once we get the contract books signed and have them out here to do that.
Okay. Was there a need for a contingency in this contract? It doesn't show that there was one. I'm just,
No.
in this type
Like
of
I said,
contract, that's it, 27.9?
Right, yep. And
Okay.
we were going to, our fear was that, we put in a grant for 40,000, theoretically, the bids could have come in at 45, and we had talked with Tifa that, hey, you may need to come up with the 5 or whatever. Now we're kind of in the other situation where, hey, we have had some expenses, and there's some other things certainly that can be done with those properties, but it's all going to be up to the state whether they will allow that with the grant funds.
Okay. Another question, since we're not quite sure what's going to happen to the property, what about the curb cuts? Have we considered the curb cuts as far as restoring the?
They were not part of the
Okay.
contract because of that reason, not knowing
Okay.
exactly where buildings will go or.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Other questions, comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a question, talking about leaving money on the table in the actual contract for this grant. You talked about going back and maybe trying to look at some past payments and applying that. Is there a way to make an amendment for potential future? Like, we've been working closely with the TIFA for some other properties potentially that would be in the same situation.
Right, and we're looking at all of those options. These were eligible because we own them. If you don't own them, there's another process. So currently, these are the 3 properties that qualify for grant funding. Some of the other properties that we've talked about, because we don't own them, they don't qualify presently. And if you were using these funds for properties that were privately held, you had certain legal obligations that you needed to follow up with prior to them being eligible. But there may be other elements that we want to do with these particular properties, such as fencing or additional grading or tree removal, things like that we're going to be speaking with them about.
But what about if we purchase some future parcels?
Depending on the timeline, you have we have to spend these monies by October, I believe.
October this year,
And
okay.
so if something falls in line within October, they would need to amend the grant. But yes, theoretically possible.
Good.
Anybody else? Any comments? You thinking? I can see you thinking, Chris.
I think I missed my opportunity. Not related to this, I just have a couple of comments.
Related to this?
Parenthetical to the Historical Society. So would that be now?
No.
I just.
If not, back to the table. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. Item number 7, consideration of board appointments. Mr. City Manager.
City Council is scheduled to consider 2 board appointments, one for the Library Board and one for the Planning Commission. Denise Robson from the Library Board has submitted her application for reappointment, and Mark Zink has submitted his for reappointment to the Planning Commission. And we'll probably see a couple more throughout the next couple of council meetings. One of the things that didn't happen with the city clerk's leave is I didn't follow up and send out the letters that she does to people that were, whose terms were coming up. And so a couple of the people did notice that on their own that their terms were coming up and resubmitted their applications, but we'll be catching up on some of those things.
Very good. Is there a motion for the reappointment of Denise Robson?
I make a motion to reappoint Denise Robson to the Library Board for a 2-year term with an expiration date of June 30th, 2018.
Support.
What's been made and supported? Any discussion? Appreciate her signing back up again. You've been an active board. Any other comments? Any audience comments? Back to the table. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? Motion passes. I would ask that you would confirm the reappointment of Mark Zink to the Planning Commission for a 3-year term. Is there a motion?
I move to confirm the mayor's reappointment of Mark Zink to the Planning Commission for a 3-year term with the expiration date of June 30th, 2019.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. Mark has brought a number of years from the community, previous community that he lived in. I think about 14 or 15 years of Planning Commission experience, which has brought some new blood to the Planning Commission also. Also, he'd be one of the people that I would suggest if you're looking for somebody to tell potential new people to come into the community. If you want to talk to somebody who's only been here for three years, go talk to Mark Zink. He loves it. Almost every single meeting after the Planning Commission, he'll come up to John and I just love it. My wife loves it here. Why we didn't do this a long time ago. He just loves the community, and he's a huge supporter. So I hope council, gives their unanimous backing to Mark for this reappointment.
And I just want to concur, Mr. Mayor. He just has an excitement. I talk to him at least once a week, and he's just got great ideas. And he's refreshing even for me as a council member to talk to him as a resident and, as a board member. So I appreciate that he reapplied too and what he does.
Any other comments? Any audience participation on this one? Back to the table? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. We thank Mark again. We move on to city manager's comments. Sir?
Just mentioning that we do have a lot of our projects going on. The tennis courts started this week, so they're removing fencing now, and we'll soon be removing the pavement. Pound Road project's been ongoing, and keeping on the water main this week. They were hoping by the end of the week to have the water main done, this week or next week. They still have a few minor sewer repairs, but they seem to be going pretty hard on that project. And Main and Monroe also started. The removal started this week. They did saw cutting last week. They anticipate doing removals of the brick pavers and the curb line this week, and then next week they'll put everything back. And so if the project goes smoothly, by the end of next week, everything should be put back together, is their plan right now. The recycling bins that we talked about with the award of the waste management contract, they're anticipating that they'll be delivered the week of July 11th. So the city treasurer and I are working on getting them a bunch of addresses. They'll be sending out the information shortly, and we should probably see the bins being dropped off to people's homes, those smaller or the larger recycling carts for everyone that week of July 11th, and then they would start picking those up the following week. And so working on that.
Excuse me, John, let me interrupt you. So if you have the little ones, will they pick those up if you put them out, as far as pick them up and remove them?
And removing them, I will verify with Waste Management. I know what she indicated, that if you don't want the bigger one and you want to stay with those, you could keep them. But I think what they'll do is if you want them gone, they'll pick them up when they drop off the new. you know.
Okay.
I have one more question. Was there an option to keep them both, the big one and the?
I believe
okay.
so. I know that's what she indicated, so I'll verify that. And then just a reminder, I'm planning on unfortunately, a family vacation that's scheduled for the next council meeting, so I may not be at the next council meeting depending on what's on the agenda.
I don't think you should be here, Mr. City Manager. You need a vacation. Is the council in full unanimous decision with that?
Concur.
I'll be gone at the next council meeting there.
Very good. You need to take the time off, John, and it's with your family. It should be a good time, and you don't need to be worrying about us.
All right.
We'll handle it. It'll be a very small agenda. We will be requesting, by the way, it will be a small agenda. That's why we had a bit of a bigger one today. But we are hoping to have the new state champion girls softball team here from Richmond High School for that meeting. And so we can do a resolution, which we'll have to get together beforehand. The city manager will get.
Yeah, I'll leave it like in
for
the
us.
closed session room for everyone to sign.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, enjoy your vacation.
Thank you.
Okay, we move on to council comments. Mike?
No, nothing.
Dennis?
I just want to congratulate the softball state championship team, and come to find out, since around 2000, they've been, not softball, but all the Richmond sports have been in around 25 state championships, and they've managed to win 12 of them,
Yeah.
which I think is a pretty good percentage.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think that's pretty close second to none most schools around the state. But we should be pretty proud on the efforts of the kids
Yeah.
over the last.
And you can add to that, Little League girls softball.
Yes,
They've
that's
won
not
state
even-
championships during the summer, and, you know, it's definitely put us on the map in a positive way. No doubt about that. Okay. Jeffrey?
One thing, you know, as I've been out talking to people, one of the things, there seemed to be a little confusion about when we were going to the biweekly recycling.
Oh.
So it reminds some people that we're still on the weekly recycling. And then some people had some concerns about some things that happened with our present waste management contractor. And I think it just should be put out there that if people are having an issue, that if there's any problems, call City Hall. That's how we know how this contract, you know, is going.
Right.
And that we can deal with. So some people talked about, you know, the little mishaps that were happening. I said, please, call the City Hall. That way we know how our contract, because if they're not working, if waste management's not working for us, that's how we correct it and we, you know, get it resolved.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So cost spreading that out. As far as Pound Road, I do want to compliment Telto so far, everything. They seemed pretty amenable to, you know, if there's an excavator sitting in your driveway and you're trying to get out, you know, they've, you know, taken a break and moved to let you, you know, through. So it's, you know, overall, I mean, there are some inconveniences, but to their credit, I think they tried pretty well to work around people trying to get out of, you know, getting out of their driveways and get down the street. So I
Good.
want to compliment, pass it on, and, you know, to stay on track on that.
Very good, very good. John?
I'd like to congratulate the girls varsity softball team on that state champions.
Yeah, great
Long time
job.
coming.
Yeah, long time. Em?
Nothing tonight.
Jamie?
Nothing, sir.
Okay. Yeah. What else was, there was something else. I think I had a question for Chris. Could you go to the, yes, really.
He's been waiting.
I know there was something I wanted to ask you, but I couldn't remember what it was. Chris,
Sure.
could you inform me what it was that I wanted to ask you? Was there something you wanted to say?
Yes.
Yes,
I do have a question for you. And that question is, the Historical Society would like to invite the City Council to the one-room schoolhouse for your September meeting. You've been there for the last few years, so I would like to know if you would still like to do that this year, and if so, we will plan on that.
Yes, we do. Absolutely.
Okay, we're really happy to have you there and to show off what we've done and to show off the gardens.
Yeah. Do you have a log cabin days this
We
weekend
do.
also?
We do. This Sunday is Log Cabin Day, and we are open from noon until 4. And so we'll be there with docents in the buildings and demonstrations. I would also like to thank the council for putting the clock in the lobby. I think it looks great there. We call it the Fanning clock, the Thomas Fanning clock, that was formerly in the bank. They did offer it to the Historical Society, but we didn't have any place to house it right now. So I'm just really proud to have it, to see it here in the lobby. I think it looks great there, and I think that's nice to, that you have a part of Richmond history here, that we have a part of Richmond history here in the, in City Hall. And just, one other thing that, for your information, the garage behind the duplex, we have put a lock on that, and we plan to use that for our stuff sale for Good Old Days, to store things until Good Old Days, and then we'll clear it out. But I also wanted to thank you for the use of that, because it really just makes our, the planning for our, we call it our stuff sale, much, much easier. So we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the calendar. Today being June 20th, we have a TIFA meeting at 7 o'clock on the 22nd here at City Hall. The summer concert series that is put on by the senior helpers will be this Thursday, the 23rd. We'll start at 7 o'clock at the Pavilion. The Historical Society, as mentioned, on the 26th, Sunday. We'll have the Historical Society Log Cabin Days. The village will be open. And also the Richmond Bees, which is our vintage baseball team, will also have a game that same day on the 26th in the Good Old Days Festival Field. That would take us through. I'm sorry, there was one more thing here that we wanted to add. It's Art in the Park. I believe it started last year by one of our businesses, the Doro Art Academy. And they are having classes on June 22nd, 29th, July 6th, 13th, 27th, August 3rd, 10th, and 17th. Get a hold of the Richmond Recreation Department. They can give you all those dates and times. It's through our Parks and Recreation Department, which you can get a hold of at 727-3064.
Correct.
Okay. So that was a very good thing, very successful thing last year for our area residents. So hopefully that continues to be that way. It takes us into July. And the library will be closed on July 2nd, and all city buildings will be closed on the 4th, which is Monday. The Recreation Board will be meeting on the 5th at City Hall. Is that correct, John? Am I correct?
They
That's
didn't change the meeting, correct, that
Okay.
is the 5th.
Okay. And then we wanted to make sure that everybody knew it is the summer schedule for the city council that we started, I believe it was last year,
Yes.
for the first time. We will be having our meetings at 6 p.m., starting with the first meeting in July, and it'll go through August here at City Hall. And the first one, because of the 4th being on a Monday, we went to Wednesday the 6th. That will be the next regular city council meeting, where we hope to entertain the new state championship softball team from the high school as one of the items that will be on our agenda. So, is there anything else we need to add to the calendar at this time? There are things going on later in July, but we'll get to those at a later meeting.
Just the AB ballot, the absentee voter ballots went out this morning, and they're available.
Yep. I got one.
Not a specific date, but
Yep.
that they're out and available.
Yeah, which we appreciate the administration without our clerk. We hope she's getting better also. Okay, moving on, is there, I'm sorry, we do. We have a closed session this evening for the patrol officers' negotiations. Need a motion to go into closed session.
I make a motion to convene into closed session in accordance with Section 8C of the Michigan Open Meetings Act, Public Act 267 of 1976, as amended, for strategy and negotiation sessions connected with the negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement if either negotiating party requests a closed hearing.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. Is there any discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Green,
Yes.
Allen, LaFour,
Yes.
Mistrovich.
Yes.
Ricks.
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
Yarrick.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Motion passes. We will convene in closed session. We're back in open session. If we could have a motion to reconvene.
Make a motion to reconvene?
Support.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? Being not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? Motion does pass. We're back in regular session here. Is there any other business of the city council this evening? Being not, motion to adjourn be in order.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Motion's been made and supported. There's no discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? Motion passes. Thank you for being with us.